Hello everyone, and welcome back to StoryForge Academy. I'm glad to have you here in session 2 of our screenwriting workshop. In today's lesson, we're going to explore one of the most important rules of cinematic writing, the golden rule of storytelling, show, don't tell. By the end of this class, you'll understand how to transform emotions and ideas into pure visual action, how to replace abstract descriptions with concrete cinematic images, and you'll even practice writing a short scene without a single line of dialogue. So grab your notebook, settle in, and let's dive into the language of cinema. The one-winged, cursed angel, with a shudder that echoed deep within his broken frame, gathered his mangled wing and its tattered feathers, his voice a mere whisper rising from the abyss of the silent hall. "Father Roland," his ragged breaths carried, the faint scent of fear and despair through the heavy air. Lucifer reclining upon his magnificent throne, the dim light of the wall torches casting an enigmatic glow upon his proud countenance, exhaled a sigh that seemed to lift a burden from his dark soul. The rich, heady aroma of thousand-year-old wine hung thick in the air. "That stubborn, damned old man again," he rumbled, his voice a low tremor like a dormant volcano stirring. "Each time his meddling shakes the very foundations of this accursed palace. What new mischief does he brew for me now?" His eyes, narrowed like those of a wrathful feline in the shadows, pierced the trembling figure. The one-winged angel, whose hollowed, lifeless eyes seemed to hold the tales of ages of torment, replied, his voice barely audible. "By your supreme command I set a wandering spirit, an angel woven from the very fabric of night's malice, to watch over Father Roland, to keep us informed of his every breath. And now ill tidings, like a creeping shadow, have arrived, and the dark messenger, haunted by the subterranean moans of the damned, stands before you." Lucifer, a storm of unease gathering on his brow, his voice edged with the sharpness of a drawn blade, commanded, "Let him enter. We must see what new defiance this rebellious Father Roland, this persistent pest, dares to conjure." Once more the groan of the colossal golden gate echoed through the hall, like the lament of a captive finally unbound. A fallen angel, wings stunted and grotesque as burnt leather, a broken horn jutting from his brow like a scar of a painful fall, crawled across the cold stone floor, a wretched insect emerging from the darkness. His gaze, filled with terror and supplication, screamed his utter insignificance before Lucifer's grandeur. "Rise!" Lucifer commanded, his voice leaving no room for disobedience. With a Herculean effort, the crawling angel obeyed, his head bowed as if bearing the weight of all the world's sins. "Speak plainly, wretch," Lucifer ordered, his voice a potent blend of authority and impatience, a hidden current of wrath simmering beneath. "Tell us what you have witnessed, what news you bring that dares to shatter this sacred silence." The horned broken angel began, his voice trembling with each halting word, punctuated by ragged breaths. "A young man, 30 years of age, from the far reaches of the East, from the veiled land of Tibet, has come, deeply enthralled by Father Roland. With a soul parched for answers and a heart yearning, he seeks baptism." Smile devoid of mirth, a mere twist of his lips touched Lucifer's face. "Baptism? He seeks to cleanse his tainted soul? What futile aspiration! Well, let him." A laugh, devoid of warmth, echoed through the high arches of the hall, a chilling mockery hanging in the air. "On what day? At what hour does this pathetic charade unfold?" "He has set a condition," the broken angel replied, his voice barely a breath. Lucifer's dark eyebrows, like twin crescents of night, arched in surprise. "A condition? What condition dares this mortal impose upon me?" "His condition," the angel whispered, "is that he receives answers to his questions." "What presumptuous questions dare this curious Eastern youth harbor? That he would challenge blind faith?" Lucifer inquired, his tone a blend of disdain and a flicker of intrigue. With trembling hands, the angel unfurled a golden scroll, as if etched with molten tears of gold, droplets still clinging like fresh blood. His voice quivered as he read. He asks why God, the omnipotent creator, abandoned Adam and Eve to the serpent's temptation. Why did the Almighty fashion a being as vile and treacherous as Satan? Was he blind to the darkness Lucifer's creation would unleash upon the world? Why did God treat Adam and Eve, for the mere act of taking a single fruit, as criminals banished from paradise? Why did he reject Cain's offering, born of toil and favor Abel's, stained with innocent blood? Does the essence of God truly delight in blood and sacrifice? Why did God choose the children of Israel as his chosen people, amidst all the nations of this vast earth? Were there no worthier, purer souls? Why did God offer his only Son, a beacon of love and purity, as a ransom for the sins of humankind? What value do these flawed, fleeting mortals hold that such a sacrifice was deemed necessary? And why, oh why, must God demand such a horrific act, that the second Adam endure the agony of the cross? And why did that divine Son, in all his power and glory, accept to be killed in the most gruesome manner imaginable? Lucifer, his face a canvas of surprise and a dawning curiosity, murmured, "Remarkable! Finally, a mortal who dares to voice such profound and challenging inquiries." Well, did that addled old man provide him with the answers he sought? The angel's voice was a mournful sigh, like the wind whistling through desolate tombs. No. Father Roland found no solace, no convincing truth to offer him. A heavy silence followed the questions, a void where understanding should have been. A sardonic smile, tinged with a deep contempt for mortal ignorance, curled Lucifer's lips. Then it is as I foresaw, complete. Either they wander lost in the labyrinth of their unanswered questions, groping in the darkness of their ignorance, or they blindly prostrate themselves in worship, devoid of understanding. Both paths lead to my dominion. Smile devoid of mirth. A mere twist of his lips touched Lucifer's face. Baptism? He seeks to cleanse his tainted soul? What futile aspiration? Well, let him. A laugh, devoid of warmth, echoed through the high arches of the hall, a chilling mockery hanging in the air. On what day? At what hour does this pathetic charade unfold? He has set a condition, the broken angel replied, his voice barely a breath. Lucifer's dark eyebrows, like twin crescents of night, arched in surprise. A condition? What condition dares this mortal impose upon me? His condition, the angel whispered, is that he receives answers to his questions. What presumptuous questions dare this curious Eastern youth harbor? That he would challenge blind faith? Lucifer inquired, his tone a blend of disdain and a flicker of intrigue. With trembling hands, the angel unfurled a golden scroll, as if etched with molten tears of gold, droplets still clinging like fresh blood. His voice quivered as he read. He asks why God, the omnipotent creator, abandoned Adam and Eve to the serpent's temptation. Why did the Almighty fashion a being as vile and treacherous as Satan? Was he blind to the darkness Lucifer's creation would unleash upon the world? Why did God treat Adam and Eve, for the mere act of taking a single fruit, as criminals banished from paradise? Why did he reject Cain's offering, born of toil and favor Abel's, stained with innocent blood? Does the essence of God truly delight in blood and sacrifice? Why did God choose the children of Israel as his chosen people, amidst all the nations of this vast earth? Were there no worthier, purer souls? Why did God offer his only Son, a beacon of love and purity, as a ransom for the sins of humankind? What value do these flawed, fleeting mortals hold that such a sacrifice was deemed necessary? And why, oh why, must God demand such a horrific act, that the second Adam endure the agony of the cross? And why did that divine Son, in all his power and glory, accept to be killed in the most gruesome manner imaginable? Lucifer, his face a canvas of surprise and a dawning curiosity, murmured, "Remarkable! Finally, a mortal who dares to voice such profound and challenging inquiries. Well, did that addled old man provide him with the answers he sought? The angel's voice was a mournful sigh, like the wind whistling through desolate tombs. No. Father Roland found no solace, no convincing truth to offer him. A heavy silence followed the questions, a void where understanding should have been. A sardonic smile, tinged with a deep contempt for mortal ignorance, curled Lucifer's lips. Then it is as I foresaw, complete. Either they wander lost in the labyrinth of their unanswered questions, groping in the darkness of their ignorance, or they blindly prostrate themselves in worship, devoid of understanding. Both paths lead to my dominion. That moment the goddess Ishtar, with the delicate gesture of her long, adorned fingers, summoned the serving angel, who presented her with a chalice of aged, ruby-red wine upon a silver tray. Ishtar took the cup, her movements a symphony of seductive grace that could bring any man to his knees, and approached Lucifer, standing beside his black velvet throne. Lucifer, his gaze captivated by Ishtar's alluring presence, the very air around her shimmering with feminine power, said, "My daughter, I see in the depths of your piercing eyes a thirst for knowledge, the flickering flame of curiosity." Ishtar's voice, a velvety murmur that seemed to rise from the depths of a secret grotto, replied, "I yearn to understand why such fundamental questions, which torment the minds of these fleeting mortals, find no worthy illuminating answers. My most exquisite goddess Ishtar, my radiant enchantress," Lucifer purred, his voice laced with the promise of power and forbidden knowledge. "Because I myself dispatched my most skilled teachers, masters of deceit and distortion, into the very heart of their spiritual institutions, and they, little by little, over the passage of time, instilled within them precisely what I desired. For 2 millennia, they have sculpted the church into a hollow edifice, its facade alluring, its core devoid of truth." Ishtar, her head bowed in ultimate respect and obedience, her raven tresses cascading like night over her shoulders, murmured, "How well I recall those distant ages, when I was the goddess of fertility and love, my temples overflowing with the gleam of gold and jewels, my worshippers offering precious gifts and even the warm blood of their children upon my altars. Even then, the worship of myself and my magnificent temples was devoid of illuminating answers, yet these mortals still prostrated themselves before me, their faith blind. I reveled in their ignorance. Why are these fleeting beings so easily deceived? At that instant, the goddess Mithra, with steps as light and rhythmic as a dancer's, approached and playfully nudged Ishtar with her elbow, her voice a potent blend of power and allure. "As long as our beloved father Lucifer, the sovereign of darkness, holds dominion over this earthly realm, the souls and bodies of these mortals are ours to command. They must worship us, and in their unquestioning devotion, the glory of our Father Lucifer, our Lord, is magnified." The goddess Lilith chimed in with a laugh that held a chilling, mocking note, her voice like the tinkling of cold bells in the air. "See how the discourse on this foolish mortal's unanswered questions has soured the sweetness of our revelry." Lucifer, shaking off his momentary contemplation, addressed the trembling horned angel with a sharp, commanding tone. "Enough of these tedious preambles. Speak the crux of the matter." The angel, his voice still laced with fear, stammered, "The seeker. He has beseeched Father Roland to hypnotize him, to plunge him into a deep trance, so that his ethereal form might journey back to the time of Christ, to seek the answers to his questions from the Messiah himself." Lucifer roared, his voice echoing like thunder through the hall, causing the torches to flicker violently. What utter madness! What audacity! Does this insignificant mortal believe he can pierce the veil of time and unravel the hidden mysteries? Then a note of thoughtful curiosity crept into his voice. Yet, I confess I too am intrigued, for the answers to some of these insolent questions elude even my grasp. The goddess Mithra, a knowing smile playing on her lips, a promise of intrigue and deception in her eyes, said, "Let this perilous journey to the age of Christ unfold, Father. But rest assured, this inquisitive soul will find no return." Lucifer turned his gaze, sharp as obsidian, upon the broken horned angel. "The moment this foolish journey begins, silence that rebellious old man, Father Roland, forever. I will tolerate his meddling no longer." Then, turning to his daughters, a wicked gleam in his eyes, he commanded, "And you, my children, keep this truth-seeking mortal lost in the labyrinthine corridors of the past, so that his insatiable thirst for knowledge becomes an eternal torment for his curious soul." Lilith, with laughter as bewitching as the echoes from an enchanted abyss, turned towards her two sisters. She cast a seductive glance upon Lucifer and, with a tone that held the promise of both pleasure and profound knowledge, entreated him to recount how the Creator of all existence had bestowed upon him the dominion over this earthly realm. Lucifer paused, as if sifting through ancient memories within the chambers of his mind. Then, his voice, like the whisper of wind through age-old pillars, resonated through the heavy silence of the hall. In the celestial spheres, within the kingdom of the Creator, all angels are his servants, each bound to a specific duty. He paused again, then continued, "When I was brought into being, the Lord was in the throes of shaping this terrestrial world, and he laid upon me the task of traversing this earthly expanse and observing it with meticulous care. This mandate sparked considerable wonder and inquiry among the angelic host, for they questioned how such an act of mere passage and observation could constitute a form of service." His voice deepened, as if unveiling a profound secret. Gradually, the angels came to believe that because the Creator of all that is held me in infinite affection, he had appointed this singular and distinguished duty unto me. Consequently, they hailed me as the beloved of the Lord, bestowing upon me the radiant title of Morning Star, and all commenced to offer me their adoration. Whispers of envy, like the slithering of serpents through the silent celestial courts, began to coil amongst them. His countenance brightened slightly, the recollection of that era seemingly affording him a perverse pleasure. And I, at every moment, would wander through this earthly sphere, and with eyes wide with wonder, I beheld how the Lord, with such order and artistry, was in the process of expanding life across this terrestrial tapestry. His unparalleled creation filled me with awe. His tone grew somber, a shadow of ancient resentment crossing his features. Among all the angels, this murmur perpetually flowed, that Lucifer, the morning star of the Lord, sat at the right hand of the Creator and was worthy of worship akin to the divine. And I, reveling in the envy that festered in the hearts of the angelic host, in a kind of wicked joy, until one day I witnessed a creation both strange and unprecedented. The creation of Adam, the genesis of the first human. It struck me as if the very weight of the cosmos had crashed down upon my head. His eyes darkened, as if reliving that pivotal moment. On that day, it was as though the entire gravity of existence descended upon me. The Creator had fashioned a being beyond us angels, wrought from the very substance of this earthly sphere, with flesh and skin and bone, and he bestowed upon this being, this Adam, the entirety of his boundless wisdom and knowledge. In contrast, the wisdom and knowledge granted to the angels were finite and circumscribed. Then the Lord God declared to that Adam, "Thou art made in mine own image, that thou mayest have dominion over the fish of the seas, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." Class, settle in. Today, we're dissecting a scene that's practically a masterclass in world building, character voice, and dramatic irony. Open your notebooks. Screenwriting analysis, the Council of Darkness. This passage isn't just dialogue. It's a meticulously constructed piece of drama. We're going to break it down into 4 main categories: setting and mood, characterization and voice, plot mechanics and stakes, and thematic core. 1. Setting and mood, the architecture of evil. The setting, though not explicitly described in exhaustive detail, is immediately established through key sensory and architectural choices. This is crucial for our visual medium, the Golden Gate. It doesn't just open, it's groan, echoed through the hall, like the lament of a captive finally unbound. This is a spectacular piece of evocative writing. Lesson: a gate isn't just a gate. It's a sound effect, a metaphor, and a mood setter. The sound of hell's doors is a lament, suggesting not triumph, but old, deep sorrow and pain, even within the palace of evil. The aesthetics of fallen glory. We have a colossal golden gate, a black velvet throne, and high arches. The grandeur is there, but it's cold. The floor is cold, stone. The torches flicker violently when Lucifer roars. Lesson: hell isn't a dumpster. It's an opulent but decayed monarchy. The grandeur magnifies Lucifer's power and the wretchedness of the crawling angel. 2. Characterization and voice, the symphony of the damned. The scene masterfully uses voice and action to define character. Notice how every character, even the minor ones, has a distinct rhythm and tone. Lucifer, the impatient sovereign. Voice. His voice is a force of nature. Storm of unease. Edged with the sharpness of a drawn blade. A potent blend of authority and impatience. A hidden current of wrath simmering beneath. Arc motivation. He is initially driven by contempt. Persistent pest. Pathetic. Charade. And impatience. Enough of these tedious preambles. The pivot. His most interesting moment is the shift when he hears the questions. His face becomes a canvas of surprise and a dawning curiosity. He murmurs, "Remarkable," and admits, "The answers to some of these insolent questions elude even my grasp." Lesson: Lucifer is not a one-note villain. His intellectual curiosity and slight vulnerability, not knowing the answers, make him fascinating and more dangerous. He's not just evil. He's an ancient calculating intelligence. The fallen angels, hierarchy of wretchedness. The one-winged angel, the herald. His eyes are hollowed, lifeless, holding tales of ages of torment. His voice is barely audible. He's a portrait of ancient suffering and obedience. Class, settle in. Today, we're dissecting a scene that's practically a masterclass in world-building, character voice, and dramatic irony. Open your notebooks. Screenwriting analysis, the Council of Darkness. This passage isn't just dialogue. It's a meticulously constructed piece of drama. We're going to break it down into 4 main categories: setting and mood, characterization and voice, plot mechanics and stakes, and thematic core. 1. Setting and mood, the architecture of evil. The setting, though not explicitly described in exhaustive detail, is immediately established through key sensory and architectural choices. This is crucial for our visual medium, the Golden Gate. It doesn't just open, it's groan, echoed through the hall, like the lament of a captive finally unbound. This is a spectacular piece of evocative writing. Lesson: a gate isn't just a gate. It's a sound effect, a metaphor, and a mood setter. The sound of hell's doors is a lament, suggesting not triumph, but old, deep sorrow and pain, even within the palace of evil. The aesthetics of fallen glory. We have a colossal golden gate, a black velvet throne, and high arches. The grandeur is there, but it's cold. The floor is cold, stone. The torches flicker violently when Lucifer roars. Lesson: hell isn't a dumpster. It's an opulent but decayed monarchy. The grandeur magnifies Lucifer's power and the wretchedness of the crawling angel. 2. Characterization and voice, the symphony of the damned. The scene masterfully uses voice and action to define character. Notice how every character, even the minor ones, has a distinct rhythm and tone. Lucifer, the impatient sovereign. Voice. His voice is a force of nature. Storm of unease. Edged with the sharpness of a drawn blade. A potent blend of authority and impatience. A hidden current of wrath simmering beneath. Arc motivation. He is initially driven by contempt. Persistent pest. Pathetic. Charade. And impatience. Enough of these tedious preambles. The pivot. His most interesting moment is the shift when he hears the questions. His face becomes a canvas of surprise and a dawning curiosity. He murmurs, "Remarkable," and admits, "The answers to some of these insolent questions elude even my grasp." Lesson: Lucifer is not a one-note villain. His intellectual curiosity and slight vulnerability, not knowing the answers, make him fascinating and more dangerous. He's not just evil. He's an ancient calculating intelligence. The fallen angels, hierarchy of wretchedness. The one-winged angel, the herald. His eyes are hollowed, lifeless, holding tales of ages of torment. His voice is barely audible. He's a portrait of ancient suffering and obedience. The broken-horned angel, the messenger. He crawls, a wretched insect, his wings, stunted and grotesque as burnt leather. He is the embodiment of utter, humiliating failure and terror. He is there to be abused and commanded. Lesson: the visual contrast is stunning. It's a brilliant choice to show the cruelty of the infernal hierarchy. Lucifer's servants are not cool, brooding villains. They are pathetic, broken slaves. This makes Lucifer look even more powerful by contrast. The goddesses, seduction and strategy. The entrance of the female deities introduces a layer of sophisticated political and sexual intrigue. Ishtar, defined by grace and seductive power. Her movements are a symphony of seductive grace. She is the intellectual questioner, asking why mortals are so easily deceived. Her motive is the thirst for knowledge. Mithra, defined by playfulness and decisive action. She approaches with steps light and rhythmic as a dancer's and is the one who proposes the lethal strategy. Let this perilous journey unfold. This inquisitive soul will find no return. Lilith, defined by mockery and pleasure. Her laugh is chilling, mocking, and she is the one who tries to steer the conversation back to revelry and asks for a story, setting up the next scene. Lesson: the goddesses are a council of equals or near equals to Lucifer. They engage him in conversation, challenge him gently, and propose strategy. They represent the different facets of temptation: intellect, deception, and carnal pleasure. 3. Plot mechanics and stakes. The rising action. The scene operates like a compressed 3-act structure. Inciting incident, the report. The one-winged angel's report. Father Roland is still active. And now there is a dark messenger with ill tidings. This immediately sets a tone of crisis. The core conflict, the discovery. The broken angel reveals the seeker's condition. He wants answers. The questions. This is the dramatic core of the scene. The questions are not simple theological quibbles. They are the most profound, challenging accusations against the Abrahamic God. They elevate the plot from a simple turf war, Lucifer versus Father Roland, to an existential crisis. Lucifer, as the ultimate unanswered truths. Pacing note: the questions are listed in a rapid-fire sequence. The rhythm of the angel's trembling voice and the weight of the text on the golden scroll build incredible tension. The climax and resolution, the strategy. The final gambit is revealed. The seeker wants to be hypnotized to journey back to the time of Christ. The reaction: Lucifer moves from contempt to curiosity to rage. What utter madness! What audacity! The new plan. The strategy is formulated instantly. Eliminate the threat. Silence that rebellious old man. Father Roland, forever. High stakes for a main world character. Eliminate the threat. Silence that rebellious old man. Father Roland, forever. High stakes for a main world character. Turn the tables. Keep this truth-seeking mortal lost in the labyrinthine corridors of the past. A clever psychological torment. Lesson: a villain's strategy must be satisfying. This plan is not a brute force attack. It's an elegant intellectual trap. They weaponize the seeker's greatest desire, knowledge, against him. Or thematic core: ignorance is dominion. The central theme is explicitly stated in Lucifer's chilling observation. Either they wander lost in the labyrinth of their unanswered questions, groping in the darkness of their ignorance, or they blindly prostrate themselves in worship, devoid of understanding. Both paths lead to my dominion. Lucifer's philosophy. This is his MO. He doesn't just want souls. He wants ignorance. Unanswered questions create doubt, which leads to fear, and that's his territory. Ishtar's confirmation. Ishtar's anecdote about her own temples, devoid of illuminating answers, yet these mortals still prostrated themselves before me, confirms this theme spans all of history and all religions. The true threat. The Tibetan seeker is dangerous not because he believes something, but because he demands to know something. He represents the challenge of reason against blind faith. This is the ultimate threat to Lucifer's carefully constructed hollow edifice. Summary for your writing. When you adapt this to a screenplay, embrace the contrast. Contrast the splendor of the throne room with the wretchedness of the servants. Focus on facial language. Lucifer's face is a key part of the scene. Contempt, surprise, curiosity, rage. Hear the rhythm. Give the goddesses distinct rhythms. Make the angel's delivery of the questions agonizingly slow and fraught with terror. Thematic punch. End the scene on the decisive, wicked command. The final lines by Lucifer and Lilith set the stage for the next movement of the story, pivoting smoothly from strategy to ancient lore. This is a beautiful scene, students. It shows that even in a story about cosmic entities, the most powerful drama is rooted in human curiosity and vulnerability. Any questions? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Screenwriting Workshop Session 2. Last week, we discussed the foundational elements of dramatic structure. Today, we're diving into what I consider the golden rule of cinematic storytelling, the very language of film. Show, don't tell. This principle is the essential difference between a novel and a screenplay. A novel tells you what a character feels. A screenplay must show you. Film is a visual medium, and our job as screenwriters is to write for the camera, not just for the reader. The golden rule: show, don't tell. Let's be clear. A screenplay is not a transcript of dialogue. It is a blueprint for an experience. When you write, "She was angry," that is prose. When you write, "She slammed the door so hard the glass in the frame rattled," that is a cinematic instruction. The latter is an action that demonstrates the emotion, making the audience feel the anger, rather than simply being told about it. Image over word. In film, the image is sovereign. Dialogue should be the last resort. We only use dialogue when the image, the action, and the subtext cannot convey the necessary information or emotion. Consider the scene you've just read. It's rich with atmosphere and high-stakes dialogue, But if we were to adapt this for the screen, we must find ways to translate the telling, the narrative descriptions, and stated emotions into showing, visual, concrete, and audible actions. Analysis of the text, translating prose to picture. Let's break down how this scene, which is heavily reliant on dialogue and descriptive telling, can be transformed into pure showing for the screen. 1. The characters showing their internal state. Text telling, internal state emotion. Screenplays showing, action visual, cinematic impact. The one-winged angel, his hollowed, lifeless eyes seem to hold the tales of ages of torment, his voice barely audible. The one-winged angel stands rigidly, a statue of petrified misery. A bead of sweat traces a path through the grime on his cheek. His single wing is a decaying, heavy counterweight. When he speaks, his throat visibly convulses, the sound a dry, agonizing rasp. We see the torment in his physical decay and hear the struggle in his voice. This is not a description of torment. It is the torment. Lucifer, a storm of unease gathering on his brow, his voice edged with the sharpness of a drawn blade. Lucifer shifts his weight on the throne. His hand grips the armrest, the knuckles turning white. A micro-expression of a sneer flashes across his face as he speaks the name Father. Roland, his eyes, narrowing like a predator's. We don't need to be told he feels unease or wrath. We see the physical manifestation of his simmering rage and impatience. The fallen angel, wings stunted and grotesque as burnt leather, crawled across the cold stone floor. His gaze, filled with terror and supplication, screamed his utter insignificance. The fallen angel's body remains horizontal as he drags himself across the floor, leaving a faint, oily smear on the polished stone. He doesn't lift his gaze past Lucifer's boots. His broken horn casts a jagged, pathetic shadow. When he rises, his knees tremble visibly, and his breath is a loud, audible wheeze. The action of crawling and the description of the stunted, burnt wings show his broken state and terror far more effectively than any dialogue. He is insignificant because he acts insignificant. 2. The environment, a visual reflection of mood. Notice how the prose uses sound and visual details to tell us the mood. The groan of the colossal golden gate echoed through the hall, like the lament of a captive finally unbound. Showing. This is a perfect piece of cinematic direction. On screen, the sound of the gates is a character in itself. Heavy, slow, grinding with a final, echoing metallic clang that dies a slow death in the vastness of the hall. The echo tells us the scale of the hall. A smile devoid of mirth, a mere twist of his lips, touched Lucifer's face. Showing, we focus on a tight shot of Lucifer's mouth. It's a precise, barely perceptible upward curve, a cold, surgical gesture that doesn't reach his eyes. It's an act of contempt, not amusement. The image of the twist is more powerful than the word sardonic. Lucifer roared, his voice echoing like thunder through the hall, causing the torches to flicker violently, showing a sudden violent blast of sound. The torches don't just flicker. They are momentarily extinguished, or their flames jump away from the sound, leaving the scene in momentary, terrifying shadow. The physical reaction of the environment shows the force of Lucifer's rage. 3. Subtext and dialogue, the power of silence. The moment of the questions is a goldmine for subtext. The angel reads the scroll, which is the heart of the dramatic tension. A heavy silence followed the questions, a void where understanding should have been. Showing. This is an opportunity for a powerful sequence of reaction shots. Close up on Father Roland. His eyes search the ceiling, then the floor. His hands, previously clasped, slowly uncurl, palm up in a gesture of absolute emptiness. He is speechless. The silence is held for 5, 10, 12 excruciating seconds. Wide shot of the room, the air is thick. The only sound is the breathing of the characters. The silence itself is the void. Lucifer's reaction. He waits. He lets the silence hang, savoring it, before his sardonic smile finally appears. The smile is his visual line of dialogue. I told you so. The screenwriter doesn't write. A heavy silence followed the questions. The screenwriter writes the actions and pauses that create the heavy silence, forcing the director and actors to execute it. Your assignment, the scene without dialogue. Now for your practice. I want you to take the core emotional conflict of this scene. Terror and subservience versus grandeur and authority, and write a new, short scene, only a single page, that tells a story without any dialogue. The challenge, the offering. Write a scene, approximately 1 page of each album's screenplay, where the fallen angel presents the golden scroll to Lucifer without a single line of dialogue or narrative description of emotion. Focus on action lines. Use verbs that are specific and evocative, e.g., slid, slammed, flinched, towered, recoiled. Visual details. What does the scroll look like when unfurled? How does the light hit the molten tears of gold? Does it make a sound? Physicality. How does the angel move? How does Lucifer receive the scroll? Does he even touch it? Does he use a tool? Does he read it? Or does his power simply know what it contains? Remember, your action lines must show the terror, the authority, the power dynamic, and the importance of the scroll. You have 15 minutes. Good luck and write visually. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Screenwriting Workshop. Session 2, The Language of Cinema, Showing, Not Telling. Last week we talked about the fundamental structures of story, but today we're diving into the absolute, golden rule of cinematic writing. It's the difference between a novel and a screenplay, the thing that makes a script cinematic. The principle is simple. Show, don't tell. Film is a visual medium. We use images, actions, and sounds to convey information, emotion, and character, rather than relying on exposition or dialogue to simply state the facts. The audience should see the story unfold. Now let's take the fascinating passage. You've just read a scene, rich with dialogue and dark imagery, and use it as our central text for today's practical exercises. This passage, while very evocative, is a great example of where a writer must make hard choices to translate internal, state and complex lore into pure action. Exercise 1. From adjective to action. Visually defining character. In screenwriting, we don't write, Lucifer was angry. We write, Lucifer's jaw tightened, the polished obsidian floor cracking beneath his boot. We must turn abstract qualities into concrete, visible behaviors. Look at the descriptions of the 2 fallen angels. The one-winged angel, whose hollowed, lifeless eyes seem to hold the tales of ages of torment. The broken horned angel, wings stunted and grotesque as burnt leather, a broken horn jutting from his brow like a scar of a painful fall, crawled across the cold stone floor, a wretched insect emerging from the darkness. His gaze, filled with terror and supplication, screamed his utter insignificance before Lucifer's grandeur. Your task, the entrance sequence. I want you to take the arrival of the broken, horned angel and write only the action lines for his entrance. No dialogue, no character name in the first line, just pure visual description of what the camera sees and what the character does. Goal. How do you convey terror and supplication, and utter insignificance, through physical action and staging before he opens his mouth? Think about lighting, sound, or lack thereof, the distance between him and Lucifer's throne, and the pace of his movement. Write it now. Exercise 2. Subtext and action, showing emotion and dialogue. One of the best ways to show, don't tell, with dialogue is to put the true emotion in the action surrounding the lines, creating subtext. The characters are often saying one thing, but doing another, or revealing their true state with a small gesture. Look at the moment where Lucifer hears about the seeker's condition. Lucifer, a condition? What condition dares this mortal impose upon me? The angel, his condition, the angel whispered, is that he receives answers to his questions. Your task, internal state made external. Rewrite this small beat, adding a specific action for Lucifer that shows his surprise and a dawning intrigue, the flicker of intrigue mentioned in the narration. The action should make his line, a condition? What condition dares this mortal impose upon me? Less a question of pure ignorance and more a challenge that has caught his interest. Example of telling. Lucifer raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Too simple, too close to telling. Write an action that shows. What does Lucifer do with his hand? His posture? Does he lean forward? Does he look away from the angel and at someone else? Make it specific and active. Exercise 3. Visualizing the unseen. The golden scroll. The scroll containing the mortal's profound questions is a crucial prop. The description is beautiful but literary. A golden scroll, as if etched with molten tears of gold, droplets still clinging like fresh blood. In a film, the audience needs to see the importance of this object and the act of presenting it. Your task, elevating the prop. Write a short series of action lines, 2-3 total, detailing the presentation of the scroll. How does the broken angel retrieve it? How does the light from the hall affect it? How does the material itself feel? Goal, use imagery to communicate the scroll's significance, that it is a document of immense, almost dangerous importance. Focus on texture, sound, the unfurling, and the reaction of the angel's hands, trembling, raw. Exercise 4, dialogue reduction, finding the core visual. The final part of the scene is heavy with dialogue between Lucifer, Ishtar, Mithra, and Lilith, explaining why the church has no answers, because I, myself, dispatched my most skilled teachers. This is a huge block of exposition. It is the quintessential telling. Your task, the cinematic equivalent of exposition. How would you visually show the result of Lucifer's 2 millennia of corruption? Without an extended monologue? You don't need to write a full scene, but pitch 3 distinct, short, cinematic montage shots that communicate. The church is now a hollow edifice, its facade alluring, its core devoid of truth. Montage shots, 3 images. A shot that focuses on the alluring facade, e.g., a beautiful, ornate cathedral exterior, but something is subtly wrong or out of place. A shot that focuses on the devoid core, e.g., an interior shot of a priest or an artifact that shows the rot or emptiness. A shot that shows the deception, e.g., a quick flash of a dark figure whispering into the ear of an early church leader, a secret transaction, or a corrupted symbol. Remember, each shot must be an action or a concrete image. These exercises are designed to train your eye to see your script as a series of moving pictures, not just a document of spoken words. The moment you commit to showing the story, you are writing in the language of cinema. Session 2, the language of cinema, showing instead of telling. Introduction. Cinema's unique vocabulary. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our course on screenwriting fundamentals. Today, we enter one of the most vital aspects of cinematic storytelling, the language of cinema itself. Unlike novels or theater, film is a medium that communicates primarily through images, actions, and sounds, not through exposition or long speeches. At the heart of this lies the golden rule: Show, don't tell. When you write a screenplay, you are not writing literature. You are designing a blueprint for an audiovisual experience. This means that what your characters do, the way they move, the look in their eyes, the rhythm of their steps, the rain falling against the window, these things carry meaning equal to or greater than dialogue. Cinema is the art of externalizing inner states through visible, audible signs. In this session, we'll unpack what it means to show, not tell, why it matters, and how to apply it. By the end, you'll attempt a practical exercise, writing a short scene without dialogue, using only visual storytelling to convey emotion. Part 1. Why show, don't tell matters in film. Writers often fall into the trap of relying too much on dialogue. This comes from prose traditions, where inner thoughts and feelings can be described directly. He was nervous. He wondered if she loved him. That works in a novel. But in a screenplay, it collapses. Why? Because film has no narrator to whisper internal monologues into the audience's ear. Film depends on what we can see and hear. Imagine an actor entering a room. You could write, "He is sad." But that tells us nothing cinematic. Instead, if you show the actor entering slowly, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the floor, clutching a crumpled letter, we feel his sadness without needing words. The audience experiences it directly. This distinction is crucial because film is immersive. People don't want to be told what to feel. They want to be placed in situations where the emotion is inevitable. As screenwriters, you are sculptors of audience experience, not lecturers explaining character psychology. Part 2. Images versus words. Cinema is built on two main languages, the visual image and the spoken word. Dialogue is not forbidden, but it should never be the only tool. Film is strongest when the visual and verbal work together, or when the image alone can carry the weight. Let's look at a few contrasting examples. Weak, telling. "I'm lonely," she says. Strong, showing. A woman sits alone at a birthday table, candles burning low on a cake. A dozen untouched chairs surround her. Her phone lights up with a message, but she doesn't check it. The second version requires no dialogue. Loneliness radiates through the mise-en-scène, the arrangement of objects and people within the frame. Another example. Weak. "I love you," he says. Strong. He places his coat over her shoulders in the freezing rain, brushing her hair away from her face, without saying a word. Notice how showing emotion visually is often more powerful than declaring it outright. Cinema thrives on subtext, the meaning beneath what is said. Part 3, the golden rule in practice. Let's dig deeper into show, don't tell. 1. Behavior as language. Every gesture, movement, or physical choice reveals character. A confident man doesn't just say, "I'm confident." He enters the room first, speaks with steady tone, leans back in his chair as if the world belongs to him. Behavior is truth. 2. Objects as symbols. Objects can tell stories silently. A soldier's medal in a drawer, dusty and forgotten, speaks of both pride and regret. A child's drawing pinned on a fridge can say more about family bonds than any monologue. For an environment as emotion. The setting is not passive. A dark alley suggests danger. A bright, sterile hospital corridor amplifies anxiety. Think about how the environment mirrors or contrasts with the character's inner world. Or silence as power. Sometimes what is not said carries the most weight. In many great films, silence creates tension, intimacy, or dread. Resist the urge to fill every gap with words. Trust the camera. Part 4. Classic examples in cinema. Let's ground this principle in some examples you may know. Up, Pixar 2009. The opening montage, showing Carl and Ellie's life together, is nearly wordless. Through images alone, painting the nursery, picnics, hospital visits, we witness love, dreams, and grief. Audiences weep not because characters declare their feelings, but because they are shown in lived details. Lost in Translation, 2003. Much of the relationship between Bob and Charlotte exists in glances, silences, and body language. Their bond is conveyed through shared looks and gestures, not through long explanations. A Quiet Place, 2018. Forced by narrative logic into silence, the characters communicate through expressions, sign language, and physical choices. The result is more suspenseful than dialogue-heavy horror films. These films demonstrate that visual storytelling can sometimes bypass words entirely, striking directly at the heart. Part V. How to train yourself. Many writers say, "But dialogue is my strength." That's fine. But remember, in film, dialogue should be the last resort, not the first. Train yourself to think like a director. Before you write a line of dialogue, ask, could this be communicated visually? Watch a scene from a favorite film with the sound off. Can you still follow the story? Which shots carry the emotion? Practice describing actions and settings with precision. Replace "he's nervous" with "his hands shake as he lights a cigarette." The match breaking twice. In other words, learn to write the movie we can see. Part 6. Common pitfalls. New screenwriters often stumble here. And over-explaining. Writing thoughts directly into the script. Like, she thinks about her father and how he abandoned her. The audience cannot see thoughts. Unless you use a voiceover, a stylistic choice that can feel heavy-handed, you must externalize those thoughts into behavior. 2. Redundant dialogue. Characters saying what the audience already sees. Example, "I'm scared," while trembling in a dark basement. Unnecessary. Trust the image. 3. Stage directions as novels. Screenplays are not prose poems. Keep descriptions vivid but lean. Instead of, "The dark night sky stretched like an endless sea of despair. Over his broken heart, write, he stares at the empty night sky, clutching the torn photograph." Part 7. Emotional transmission without dialogue. Here's a useful technique. Imagine your scene as being watched by someone who doesn't understand the language being spoken. Could they still feel the story? If the answer is yes, you are succeeding at cinematic storytelling. Think about body language. Love can be shown through touch, eye contact, sacrifice. Fear can be shown through hesitation, retreat, glances over the shoulder. Anger can be shown through clenched fists, slammed doors, broken glass. Emotions are universal, and cinema is a universal medium when it relies on images. Part 8. Exercise for the class. Now let's put this into practice. Your task is to write a short scene, no more than 1 page, without dialogue. The scene must involve at least one character, convey a clear emotion, joy, sorrow, fear, longing, etc. Use only visual cues, actions, objects, settings, and expressions to transmit that emotion. Contain no spoken lines. Here's an example to spark your imagination. Example scene, no dialogue. Int, kitchen, night. A single bulb flickers above a messy table. A teenage boy, still in his school uniform, empties his backpack. Crumpled tests, each marked with red F, scatter across the table. He stares at them, breathing heavily. His hand shakes as he reaches into his pocket. He pulls out a photograph, him and his mother, laughing together at an amusement park. He places the photo beside the failed tests. He sits, buries his face in his hands. A tear falls onto the paper. The bulb flickers again, buzzing as the boy sits motionless in the silence. In that short scene, we never hear him say, "I'm a failure," or "I miss my mother." Yet we feel both through the images. Conclusion. Cinema as visual poetry. To master screenwriting, you must master the grammar of images. Dialogue will always have its place. But remember, cinema speaks in the language of showing. Every great filmmaker, from Hitchcock to Bong Joon-ho, has understood that the camera is not a recording device, it is an emotional transmitter. As you practice, keep returning to the golden rule. Show, don't tell. Ask yourself with every scene, what does the audience see? What do they hear? How can I make them feel without anyone saying it out loud? That is the art of screenwriting. For next time, bring your written exercise, a wordless scene that conveys emotion. We will workshop them together, examining how successfully you've communicated meaning through cinematic language. That wraps up session 2 of our screenwriting workshop here at StoryForge Academy. Today you learned how to use the language of cinema to show emotions and ideas visually instead of telling them with dialogue. Remember, film is poetry in images, and your job as a screenwriter is to make the audience feel, not just to explain. Your assignment for this session: write a short, one-page scene without dialogue, relying only on images, actions, and expressions to communicate emotion. In our next session 3, Idea and Logline, we'll look at how to take a raw idea and transform it into the core of your screenplay. You'll learn how to craft a powerful one-sentence logline that defines character, conflict, and theme. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the upcoming classes. Keep writing, keep creating, and I'll see you in the next session.